CeraVe's story is one of steady growth, science-backed skincare, and an unexpected explosion in popularity. And it's actually such an amazing story that has become aspirational for many in the skincare industry, with countless brands trying to become the next CeraVe. What started as a dermatologist-developed brand with a clinical focus on simple packaging eventually became a drugstore staple and later a viral sensation. But its journey hasn't been without controversy, from its acquisition by L'Oreal, which is always an issue, and all the drama that comes with it, including concerns over reformulations and debates about influencer marketing and accessibility. CeraVe has faced its fair share of scrutiny. Yet despite its criticisms, the brand has remained a dominant force in the skincare industry and is hugely popular on social media. So how did a once overlooked pharmacy brand become one of the most talked about names in skincare? Disclaimer, you know I'm not a fan of CeraVe, but in these behind the beauty videos, I do try and play fair as much as I can, and as well as highlighting a few controversies and concerns, I do want to celebrate CeraVe as the brand it is today. Chapter 1: Founding of the brand. So to answer my initial question, we have to go all the way back to 2004 when soon-to-be co-founder Tom Allison, who has become pretty much the face of the brand, along with the partners who want to remain behind the scenes, they began researching and exploring the idea of creating science-backed, effective but affordable solutions to common skin conditions. Prior to founding CeraVe, Allison had worked for over 20 years in the dermatology world in a variety of roles, including sales and marketing, and at one point was the regional manager of a large dermatology pharmaceutical company. His years working in the industry and building relationships with dermatologists is what led him to the idea of creating effective skincare products that were accessible to everyone. And he spoke to dermatologists on a daily basis throughout his career and learned about the struggles that their patients faced. In particular, when it came to finding products that were not only effective, but also considered safe for a wide range of skin types and conditions. So when he started working on formulations to fill this gap in the market, it made perfect sense to him to go straight to the dermatologist for help. And it was this collaboration which led to the creation of CeraVe's ingredient, ceramides. We say their creation, we mean they kind of popularized ceramides in skincare. Also, they didn't invent ceramides. In an interview with Vogue, Allison said, "In 2004, we brought together a panel of dermatologists who are considered the world experts in ingredient formulation design and asked them what they were to create if they were to create a skincare brand. And they pointed them to the ingredient called ceramides." Now, I would argue here that dermatologists aren't the experts when it comes to ingredient formulation, that would be cosmetic chemists, but they understand skin and what skin needs. The brand has said that the dermatologists that they collaborated with were focused on the issue that many people with skin conditions such as acne, eczema, and psoriasis were not getting the relief they needed from traditional skincare products. Because these existing products weren't really addressing any of these core issues, they were just addressing things like anti-aging, moisturizing, the basics. They believed that the key to effective skincare was to focus on restoring the skin's natural barrier, which helps protect the skin from moisture loss, transepidermal water loss, and environmental damage. We know that. And of course, ceramides play a huge important role in repairing and protecting the natural skin barrier. We know that they're a type of lipid that make up about 50% of the skin's outermost layer, helping to keep moisture in and irritants out. And nowadays we all know how important having a healthy skin barrier is. But at the time, no one knew about this. No one knew about this kind of stuff. So a brand focusing on the importance of a healthy skin barrier was really new and very, very unique at the time for everyone other than dermatologists. So throughout 2005, Allison and his co-founders continued working closely with leading dermatologists to test and develop ingredients and formulations, eventually deciding that their entire philosophy should be built around replacing ceramides in the skin barrier. And they settled on including 3 essential ceramides, 1, 3, and 6 line 1. And they put them in all of their products as they mimic the natural lipids in our skin, so are supposedly far more effective at helping to restore the skin's natural barrier. Chapter 2: Launch an initial product line. By 2006, CeraVe was finally ready to launch their first product line, consisting of 3 foundational products. These included a moisturizing cream, a moisturizing lotion, and a hydrating cleanser. The moisturizing cream was pretty much what their default moisturizer is nowadays, a rich, non-greasy cream designed to provide intense hydration. The lotion was a lightweight lotion aimed at daily moisturizing. And the hydrating cleanser was, of course, a gentle cleanser formulated to remove impurities without stripping the skin's moisture. with all three products being formulated with ceramides, as well as one other unique aspect of their product design, their patented multivesicular emulsion technology. Now, this technology allowed for the gradual release of moisturizing ingredients over 24 hours, providing long-lasting hydration and enhanced skin barrier restoration. Bear in mind, this was what, 2006 did I say? This was the time of stripping products. This was the time of extreme heavy alcohol astringents, St. Ives apricot scrub. This was new. This was something different at the time, which it feels so standard now, but caring for your skin wasn't a thing at the time. Stripping your skin of everything was a thing. But this technology, this was a key aspect for the brand, as they felt that other skincare products were only helpful for a short amount of time after use. They didn't have this slow release technology. This wasn't very helpful to people who suffered from skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema, as they would have to constantly keep applying these products throughout the day. Otherwise, their skin would get dry, flaky, and itchy. Of course. Alison said in an interview that their MVE technology delivers 6 times the amount of active ingredient into the skin in comparison to an identical formulation without MVE. And it's patented and exclusive to us, he said. He also said that other brands just used water instead of MVE in their formulations, arguing that this didn't really actually deliver ingredients into the skin. MVE is essentially like tiny balls, right, that have multiple layers which trap the ingredients between each layer and slowly dissolve over time, releasing more ceramides and other ingredients over a longer period. Encapsulation, is that the same thing? So with the help of their essential ceramides and their MVE technology, CeraVe's initial product line was a hit amongst the medical community. Dermatologists all over the US were impressed with the brand's effective but gentle fragrance-free formulas, and it quickly became a popular recommendation for their patients with eczema, dry skin, and other skin issues. However, their impact amongst the average consumer was kind of like much more subdued. The packaging could definitely be described as plain or even medicinal, as I've called it before. Their formulas didn't include any trending ingredients, and they didn't have any celebrity backers or expensive influencer marketing campaign, which of course at the time made sense, and this is all perfect for their brand and what the products need to do. Basic, but in a good way, purposefully basic. And this made it hard for CeraVe to stand out in a skincare market that often focused on luxury or celebrity status to appeal to the masses. This was a time when celebrities were the faces of like Neutrogena and all that kind of other stuff. Influencers weren't really a thing, but you know, celebrities were the influencers at the time. But CeraVe's marketing plan, just like their formulas, was about playing the long game. Unlike many popular skincare brands at the time, CeraVe focused on barrier repair for long-term skin health rather than immediate dramatic results that wouldn't last. And their marketing and branding trusted that over time, the effectiveness of their products would spread through word of mouth. They adopted a medical-first strategy which aligned with their origins, distributing samples to dermatologists and positioning themselves as a pharmacy-grade brand recommended by skincare experts. Their packaging was minimalist, shall we say, and clearly labeled, so consumers knew exactly what the products were and the problems that they claimed to solve. They didn't rely on flashy branding or costly marketing tactics, and this kind of minimalist approach was kind of done on purpose, right? It helped them to save on costs and keep product prices down, and this aligned with the company's stated mission to provide dermatologist-recommended skincare that is affordable, accessible, and effective. Remember that. The affordability and accessibility was a core element of the brand's philosophy, at least at the start. But we'll go into that in more detail later in the video. I mean, the only real downside of this approach was that it did take CeraVe quite a long time to reach the mainstream. At first, the brand massively flew under the radar, but while they didn't get much attention from the average consumer, dermatologists had noticed what CeraVe were doing. Chapter 3: Continued Growth and New Products. Over the next few years, CeraVe remained a well-kept secret amongst dermatologists and those with sensitive skin. The brand's biggest strength was its clinical backing. Dermatologists not only trusted its formulations, but actively recommended CeraVe to patients with acne, rosacea, eczema, and dry skin. Now, they were also available in drugstores, pharmacies, and online retailers, very slowly gaining a reputation for being an effective science-backed brand and an affordable alternative to the more expensive skincare. skincare lines. Their popularity amongst dermatologists during this time continued to grow steadily, but they still remained relatively unknown to the average consumer. But despite this, the brand did manage to garner some attention from a few bigger players. In fact, a few years after launching, they caught the eye of Valeant, I believe it's pronounced. They are a pharmaceuticals company who saw potential in CeraVe's unique dermatologist-developed approach to skincare. So in 2008, CeraVe's parent company, Korea Laboratories, I believe it's pronounced, was acquired by Valeant Pharmaceuticals for $95 million. Not bad for a relatively unknown skincare brand. I think it's pronounced Valiant, right? Valiant's focus was mainly on prescription medications, right? And medical treatments rather than growing a consumer skincare brand. So although CeraVe continued to grow under the new ownership, they were still relying on dermatologists and other medical professionals and word of mouth as their main market and source of promotion. Still way off the explosion we're going to see a decade later. Now, CeraVe continued to expand its range of products under Valiant's ownership, with many of their new products being aimed at treating specific skin conditions. Some of their notable new products during this time were the foaming facial cleanser, developed for normal to oily skin types, aiming to remove excess oil and sebum without disrupting the skin's natural barrier. Their renewing salicylic acid cream, which was formulated to exfoliate and soften rough, bumpy skin, making it suitable for conditions like keratosis pilaris, and their healing ointment, which was obviously designed to protect and soothe extremely dry, cracked, flaky skin, and is nowadays used for slugging to stop transepidermal water loss. And many of these new products were just as popular with professionals as the original lineup, and they continued to receive praise for their effective formulations and affordable prices. Now, by the mid-2010s, the rise of online skincare communities helped drag CeraVe out of the doctor's office and into the mainstream skincare world. Skincare discussions on multiple blogs, early YouTube skincare channels, and Reddit skincare addiction subreddit, CeraVe began getting attention as a hidden gem in skincare. This was a time when people didn't want fragrance in their skincare. They were listening to dermatologists more and more about what they should be using. All this new attention was starting to make CeraVe stand out in a market flooded with overhyped beauty brands. CeraVe also capitalized further on their scientific credibility by partnering with medical professionals for marketing campaigns. The brand sponsored dermatology conferences, collaborated with skin experts for educational content, and leaned even more heavily into its dermatologist recommended label. This reinforced the trust with consumers, making it one of very few drugstore brands consistently endorsed by professionals. Chapter 4: L'Oreal's acquisition. Eventually, just over a decade after the brand's foundation, CeraVe had managed to build an incredibly loyal fan base, and the brand was finally starting to get noticed more and more in the mainstream skincare world. More consumers began to see CeraVe as affordable, effective, and a gentle option for everyday skincare, whether or not they had been diagnosed with any skin condition. They still weren't anywhere near as big as they are now, but the catalyst for their rapid growth was just around the corner. In 2017, L'Oreal, who else, acquired CeraVe in a group deal including Acne Free and Ambi, which were also owned by Valiant. It's unclear what CeraVe specifically was valued at in the deal, but L'Oreal ended up paying $1.3 billion for all three of these brands. That was a lot of money considering that the three brands combined had an annual revenue of $168 million when the purchase was made. It was a gamble for L'Oreal, but one that was going to pay off massively. Unsurprisingly though, L'Oreal's ownership has not been without controversy. It's L'Oreal, and we'll go into detail about some of those controversies a little bit later in the video. But at the time of purchase, CeraVe faced all the usual negativity that comes with a L'Oreal acquisition. One of the biggest controversies surrounding L'Oreal, is of course its stance on animal testing. The takeover occurred back before China's recent changes to their animal testing policy, so it understandably led to the backlash from cruelty-free advocates who argued that CeraVe, as a L'Oreal-owned brand, could no longer consider themselves cruelty-free anymore. As a result, many skincare enthusiasts decided to boycott CeraVe since the acquisition. Another concern itchy regarding the takeover was the potential reformulation of CeraVe's products. Time and time again, loyal customers of smaller brands have seen their favorite products altered under the ownership of L'Oreal, who often bring in these cost-cutting measures, often using cheaper ingredients and cheaper processes in order to maximize their profits. For what it's worth, Tom Allison actually claimed on a podcast a few years after the takeover that the original 3 products they launched with were still 99.9% the same formulations, and that these were also still their best-selling products. And that may have been true at the time, but just a couple of years later, CeraVe began reformulating quite a few of their products, partly in order to remove parabens from their products, and many consumers weren't happy with the new formulations, with some consumers even experiencing irritation for the first time since using these new formulations. We've discussed paraben alternatives and why they are not the safest option, why they are not as well tested as parabens, and why so many people will have adverse reactions and experience irritation from these paraben alternatives when parabens are fine, well studied, and perfectly safe. Despite these concerns, L'Oreal's takeover did also do a lot to raise the profile of CeraVe in the US and worldwide. They helped get CeraVe into major retailers like Target, Walmart, and CVS, as well as helping CeraVe to expand into international markets, having previously only been available in the US. And in the years following the acquisition, CeraVe was made available throughout the rest of the world in Canada, the UK, France, Germany, and Australia, and most notably perhaps China. And taking advantage of L'Oreal's worldwide distribution network and huge market resources really helped put CeraVe in the perfect position to capitalize on an opportunity that would make them one of the best known skincare brands around today. Chapter 5: Skyrocketing Popularity. We all know by now that the COVID-19 pandemic had a huge impact on the sales of skincare products and the general interest in the skincare industry as more people focus on self-care and skincare routines during what was an extremely stressful time. Part of this increase in attention for skincare was driven by platforms like TikTok and YouTube, which saw a massive surge in skincare-related content. And amongst the biggest winners of this phenomena was none other than CeraVe. The brand's blend of efficacy, simplicity, and affordability really connected with a lot of consumers at the time who were looking for those exact things during the pandemic. They were all of a sudden being reviewed and praised amongst a whole list of influencers and dermatologists. I think Hiram, Dr. Shah, and Dr. Dre being the most notable. These endorsements resonated with a wide audience, particularly with Gen Z, leading to CeraVe's huge virality and increased demand for what was essentially had been a fairly niche and basic brand until then. It also helped that under L'Oreal, the brand engaged in far more influencer marketing, allowing it to capitalize on the growing popularity of skincare, as well as the move away from more flashy, complicated products at the time. The CeraVe marketing team presented the brand in a fun and more engaging way, while still retaining its derm-approved authority. I personally do find the adverts like a little bit cringe. I think it's definitely a millennial behind these adverts. But by 2022, CeraVe had amassed over 317,000 followers on its TikTok account, and the hashtag CeraVe had been viewed more than 1.7 billion times. Now that was a huge change for the brand, which had been operating in the shadows for such a long time as a dermatologist's best kept secret. But it didn't stop there. Since then, CeraVe has continued to skyrocket in popularity. They now have 1.8 million TikTok followers and 1.4 million on Instagram, with many of their posts getting hundreds of thousands or even millions of views. CeraVe became so popular during this time that the unexpected spike in demand led to temporary shortages of certain products around the world, as the brand pretty much scrambled to scale up production and meet the newfound popularity. During COVID, this was a tough time. Sales had soared to the heights that L'Oreal probably hadn't even expected. And by 2021, CeraVe's sales had grown by almost 5 times since L'Oreal acquired the brand in 2017. CeraVe also reached $1 billion in sales by 2021, becoming the 3rd largest brand by sales in the dermacosmetics market. I don't know how hard that is actually. Is that an achievement? I guess course it is, right? Riding their ever-growing success, CeraVe decided to venture into hair care by launching an anti-dandruff shampoo and conditioner line. Of course, these products were formulated with ceramides and pyrithione zinc, I think it's pronounced, to improve scalp health while maintaining the skin barrier. They continued their success on social media by bringing in NBA star Anthony Davis and TikTok royalty Charli D'Amelio to promote the new hair care range. Now, this foray into hair care looks like it's going to be another success for the brand, as the collection is getting mostly positive reviews, with many praising the same things people like about the rest of their products: efficacy, affordability, and simplicity. It might seem like CeraVe can do no wrong at the moment. After all, they're bigger now than they've ever been, and social media is full of nothing but praise for the brand. But their rise to these new heights has also come with increased scrutiny, and like any L'Oreal-owned brand, they seem to be getting their fair share of criticism. Chapter 6: The Controversies Begin. One of the biggest controversies and criticisms that CeraVe has faced in recent years is the pricing. As I keep mentioning, one of CeraVe's founding philosophies was that the brand should be affordable and accessible to everyone. For almost 20 years, they stuck with this philosophy, with their customers often praising the brand for their affordability. They love that they could get effective products down at the drugstore for such a reasonable price. But in the last few years, CeraVe have increased their prices significantly, with many former fans complaining that they feel like they've been priced out of using their favorite products. In March of 2023, a Target employee highlighted this issue by sharing a TikTok video showing the substantial price jumps for CeraVe products. For instance, for example, a 3-ounce face moisturizer with SPF 30 increased from $14.99 to $24.49, and another moisturizer rose from $13.99 to $22.49. Those are increases of over 60%. And it seems like prices have gone back down slightly compared to these increases back then, but they still are way higher than they were just a few years ago. And understandably, a lot of former fans of the brands aren't happy. Reddit and TikTok are full of people pretty much in disbelief over the prices, with many of them reminiscing about when the brand was actually affordable, and more importantly, an affordable alternative to its more expensive competitors, and even more importantly, an affordable product that could help them through their skin symptoms. Now, this isn't a great look for CeraVe, is it? With plenty of consumers accusing the brand of price gouging and calling them out for abandoning their roots as a budget-friendly skincare option. I remember when they launched in the UK even, I was walking around Boots and I was like, looking at the prices of CeraVe, and I was like, I thought this was meant to be an affordable brand. To me, affordable is like £10 and under, £15 and under at a push. There has also been some controversy around whether or not ceramides, the core component of CeraVe's products, is actually effective in skincare products. The main concern from people doubting this is to do with the optimal ratio of concentration of ceramides, cholesterol, and free fatty acids necessary to effectively repair the skin barrier. Now, some research suggests that a 3:1:1 ratio of these three components is ideal for restoring the skin barrier. However, many over-the-counter ceramide products, including some from CeraVe, don't stick to this specific ratio, leading some people to question whether their products are actually effective or not. Though it's worth noting that the products which don't exactly follow this optimal ratio might still be somewhat effective, just not as effective as they could be. And this one may be getting a little bit blown out of proportion, considering that regardless of some people's concerns about this optimal ratio of skin barrier supporting ingredients, it's undeniable that so many consumers find CeraVe's products to be very, very effective, with a lot of people saying that no other products work for them. And with the sheer volume of people praising CeraVe's effectiveness, I don't think you can just disregard that entirely. It clearly works for a lot of people very, very well, and I don't think they've done so well just by shoving out any old shit. But those aren't the only controversies that the brand has experienced recently, and the next one is a little bizarre. CeraVe has consistently emphasized that its products are developed in collaboration with dermatologists. This claim is central to the brand's identity and marketing strategy, and they've leaned heavily onto this claim ever since they first launched. But kind of shockingly, even that claim has come under scrutiny by some who don't believe that CeraVe really ever worked with derms at all, or that derms were even helping to create the products in the early stages. There are some who find it strange or even suspicious that when a brand talks about their founders, they only ever mention Tom Allison, who I talked about earlier as a co-founder. But he is a co-founder. Who are the other co-founders? Are they dermatologists? Their names don't ever seem to appear anywhere or ever be mentioned by Tom Allison or the brand itself. They've also never actually said who these dermatologists were that they apparently worked incredibly close with to develop these products in the first place. Allison has said multiple times that they have worked with top dermatologists at the time, ones who were teaching other dermatologists and giving lectures about dermatology, as well as being the ones who initially proved that ceramides worked in the first place in skincare. So where are they? What are their names? The CeraVe website and marketing says the same thing, but as far as anyone can tell, they never actually come out. They've never came out and named them. These are really important people in creating the brand. Like, who are they? Some find this strange, question why the brand wouldn't want to praise the derms that the brands rely so heavily on, that they give credit to for helping them to create such a successful brand. And if you look at their website now, you will see photos and names of dermatologists, but these are dermatologists they're currently working with, but nothing about the original ones. And although this is a little bit strange, there hasn't been any concrete evidence put forward to support the theory that they're lying. It seems to be mostly based on the lack of information provided by the brand. I'm sure they could come out tomorrow and say, like, these are the people who helped. But a lot of people do still feel that it's just one big like marketing strategy in order to kind of have some authority as a brand. On the topic of CeraVe's relationship with dermatologists, one other criticism that the brand has received is accusations that they may have paid off dermatologists to support and promote the brand, or that derms may feel pressured to do so because of CeraVe's deep involvement in the dermatology industry. Part of these concerns stem from the fact that CeraVe sponsors dermatology conferences and other related events. On the face of it, all seems fairly normal, right? CeraVe are a brand who are built on the collaboration with dermatologists, so it seems natural that they sponsor a dermatologist event. But it still led to some to question how much influence the brand has over dermatologists and the dermatology industry. You know, like, do they have to praise them so they get funding for all this stuff? Another part of it is obviously that some question whether all these derms praising and recommending the brand, particularly on social media, are only doing it because of its financial incentives and not because they actually believe in the brand's effectiveness. Again, this is all criticism that is hard to prove, that seems to have been picked out of nowhere, and to be honest, it kind of comes with being one of the biggest names in the skincare world. Distrust of the relationship between skincare brands and influencers has been a thing for years, with these dermatologists pretty much essentially being modern day influencers. It affects all big brands, not just CeraVe. But more recently, CeraVe has been caught up in another controversy, when I say it like that, which is a little less bizarre than the alleged fake derms, more concrete than some of the other accusations, and possibly far more damaging to the brand. In 2024, an independent laboratory, Welsh, reported that certain benzoyl peroxide-based acne treatment products, including some of CeraVe's, contained benzene, a known cause of cancer, at levels which exceeded federal safety standards. Now, this raised major concerns among your average consumers, especially since CeraVe is marketed as dermatologist recommended, science-backed, and proven to be good for sensitive skin. Now, if true, which it's not, the presence of benzene in its acne treatments was a huge concern for consumers, especially for those who had used products on a regular basis for years now. The FDA says that any drug product containing more than 2 parts per million of benzene should be recalled due to unacceptable levels of toxicity. The laboratory results apparently showed that the affected CeraVe products had levels of benzene between 5 and 12 parts per million. Some have called out the report from Welsh, claiming that their study was not well conducted, which it wasn't, that the conditions that the tests were carried out under were not realistic to real world conditions, and accuse the lab of fear-mongering. And they also have some ulterior motive here as well. I will link a video down below or some content down below. Michelle from Lab Muffin and Jen from the Eco Well, they have their eyes on these people. They've been accused of fear-mongering, but that hasn't stopped people from trying to sue the brand. In March of 2024, a class action lawsuit was filed against L'Oreal as the owner of CeraVe, claiming that they failed to warn customers that benzoyl peroxide in CeraVe Acne Foaming Cleanser and CeraVe Acne Foaming Cream Wash can degrade into benzene. It can't, leading to harmful amounts of carcinogen in these products. And since then, the lawsuits have continued to pile up. And as of early 2025, 6 class action lawsuits were pending against L'Oreal and CeraVe, with discussions about consolidating these cases underway. It's not true. This is a typical case of a lab with some kind of like ulterior motive, putting these products in ridiculous conditions that aren't reflective of real world conditions and saying your products are dangerous. This study is the equivalent of you saying that water is fine to drink and then me boiling that water, giving it to you and be like, drink it, see, it's not safe. So far, L'Oreal and CeraVe have not publicly admitted to any wrongdoing, and the case is still ongoing. They've rightfully issued statements emphasizing their commitment to consumer safety and announced internal investigations to address the concerns raised. So we'll have to wait and see. I know they're not the only people involved in this case. There's so many skincare brands, especially sunscreen brands, that are involved in this lawsuit too. It's still unclear whether or not Valashore's tests were conducted properly and whether the results are trustworthy. But as always with these kinds of public lawsuits, will have undoubtedly led consumers to question whether they can really trust CeraVe. Now, CeraVe's journey from a small dermatologist-backed niche brand to a global skincare giant is nothing sort of remarkable. It really is incredible to watch as a skincare enthusiast who has an interest in not just the products, but the businesses as well. What started as an obsession with skin barrier repair has turned into one of the most popular brands in the skincare industry, generally trusted by professionals and consumers alike. Over the year, CeraVe has managed to repopularize drugstore skincare, showing many that effective formulations don't have to come with a luxury price tag or celebrity face. Their focus on ceramides, hydration, and barrier repair has influenced countless brands, setting new expectations for what everyday skincare should prioritize. But since L'Oreal's takeover, things haven't been completely smooth for the brand. They have grown incredibly quickly in just a few years, but this has led to much harsher scrutiny from the public, and their trustworthy reputation has definitely been tarnished for some consumers. So where does CeraVe go from here? Well, the skincare industry is evolving at a rapid pace. Consumers are far more demanding now. They want the brands they support to be transparent, honest, and ethical. For decades, CeraVe excelled in these areas, but many believe they are starting to slip under their new corporate owners. Do you still trust CeraVe? I don't use them, I trust them though. Or do you think the L'Oreal takeover has changed too much about what the brand stands for? Let me know in the comments below.